Hi, welcome to lesson 46. So this is going to be a grammar lesson and it's the first on the topic of countable and uncountable nouns. My name's Stephanie. This is a level B2 or upper intermediate lesson and this is lesson 46 of the course. Now I'm sure by this level you have talked and learned a lot about countable and uncountable nouns, but let's have a look at what we're going to cover in our lesson today. So in lesson 46, you will understand the difference between countable and uncountable nouns. So we will review the rules, what makes a noun countable and what makes a noun uncountable. We will then practice taking uncountable nouns and we'll look at how you can make them countable. And we will expand vocabulary for containers and contents. So there will be a vocabulary input in this lesson as well. Okay, so let's start with refreshing our memory and reviewing what makes a noun countable. So, countable nouns. Well, you can use numbers with countable nouns and you can use a or an with singular countable nouns because these are things that we can count. We can see them as individual objects, items, and we can count them. I'm asking you if you can think of any examples. I've given you a clue, as always, with the image, but can you think of, just give me 3 examples of countable nouns. Okay, here are my examples. So, a kitten, as in the picture, a ball of wool, an apple. Remember to use an if the noun begins with a vowel. Or 3 potatoes. Again, something you can count. 1 potato, 2 potatoes, 3 potatoes. So that's countable nouns. Things you can count. You can usually use a number or say a or an beforehand. So what about uncountable nouns? Well, an uncountable noun only has one form. So there's no S on the end. You cannot use numbers with uncountable nouns because you cannot count them. Again, let's see if you can give me some examples, and there's a big clue in the picture. Okay, so here are my examples. Coffee, as in the picture, traffic, and wine are all examples of countable nouns. We cannot count these things. Perhaps you're thinking, but I've heard somebody say, I'd like a coffee. Well, this is slightly different because when we say I'd like a coffee, what we actually mean is I would like a cup of coffee, and it's the cup that we're counting, not the coffee itself. So although you're correct, you might sometimes hear I'd like a coffee, I'd like a wine, I'd like a tea. What the person means is a cup of, a glass of. So that actually counting the container, not the item that's in it. But that's a very interesting point. Okay, let's practice then. And let's have a look at a list of nouns, and I'm asking you, are these nouns countable or uncountable? Pause the slide, have a read through the list and see if you can decide if you think these nouns are countable or uncountable. Okay, how did you find that? Well, let's check our answers together. So, in the countable list, we have computer, friend, person, suitcase, animal, picture, grapes, and pen. These are all things that we can count. In the uncountable list, we have butter, news, information, bread, advice, work, damage, and weather. So these are examples of uncountable nouns. These are things that we cannot count them as individual items. Good. Okay, so we talked a little bit before about how uncountable nouns can be put in containers. We talked about wine, we talked about a glass of wine, coffee, a cup of coffee. So what we're going to move on to now is talking about different types of container. Now, how many containers can you think of? I've just told you 2, and as always, there's a clue in the picture here. So that's 3, but just have a think, maybe have a look around where you're sitting, have a look around your office or your home, and think about containers. Think about the kitchen. What do you put things in? So I'd like you to pause the slide and make a list of as many containers as you can think of. So pause the slide now. Okay, how many did you manage to think of? Let's compare with what I've got and see if you had any of these. So my list, I've got quite a lot. There are a lot of different containers, but my list, I have a box, a packet, a bottle, a cylinder, a glass, a tube, a cup, a can, a tub, a sack, a bag, a sachet. Note the pronunciation, it's a silent T, sachet. I've got a box again, a carton, a tank, and a mug. So did you have any of those containers? Maybe you thought of something that's not on my list. Well done if you did. Okay, so this helps us to make uncountable nouns countable. When an uncountable noun is put into a container, it becomes countable. Let's look at an example. Wine is an uncountable noun. I would like some wine, please. But when it is put into a glass or bottle, it becomes countable. I would like a glass of wine, please. I would like a bottle of wine, please. So this is when you might hear a or an or a number before an uncountable noun when it is in a container, because it's the container that we're actually counting. Okay, time to practice as always. Let's have a look at some examples. So these are my examples. Uncountable noun, wine. Put it in the container glass. It becomes a glass of wine. Toothpaste. Uncountable. Put it in a container, tube, it becomes a tube of toothpaste. Coffee is uncountable. Put it in a container like a cup, and you can count it, a cup of coffee. Jam, put it in a jar of jam. Rice is uncountable, but in a bag, it becomes a bag of rice. Milk, uncountable, but put it in a carton and it becomes a carton of milk. So I've given you 6 examples there of uncountable nouns being put into a container and becoming countable. So now it's your turn. Now I'm asking you to think. Have a look at these 10 sentences, 10 containers. But can you think of a noun, an uncountable noun, to complete the sentences? So what I'd like you to do is to pause the slide, please, and see if you can think of an uncountable noun to complete the sentences. A tank of, a packet of, a bottle of, a cylinder of, a can of, a tub of, a box of, a sack of, a bag of, and a sachet of. So pause the slide and see if you can think of 10 uncountable nouns. Okay, did you manage to think of 10? Well, let's have a look at my answers and compare them to yours. So obviously there are different variations here, but here are my logical answers. Number 1, a tank of petrol. Number 2, a packet of sugar. A bottle of shampoo. A cylinder of gas. A can of tuna. A tub of butter. A box of detergent powder. A sack of grain. A bag of cement. And a sachet of sweetener. Did you have any the same? Maybe you have some different answers. These are all logical answers, so they're logical things that you would find in these types of container. Well done. Okay, our second practice activity is looking at it the other way. So this time I'm going to give you 10 nouns, and I'm asking you to think of a logical container that you might put these items in. So a of sugar, a of wine. Have a look through the list and see if you can think of 10 different containers that you might put these items in. So pause the slide now. Okay, were you able to think of 10 different containers there? Well, let's check what I've put and compare them to your answers. So I had a packet of sugar, a bottle of wine, a mug of tea, a can of soup, a tub of ice cream, a carton of milk, a sachet of sugar, a glass of juice, a jar of marmalade, and a tube of cream. Were these the same as your answers? Remember, as long as your answers, if you had 10 different answers, that's great, but as long as they're logical. So, for example, toothpaste is always found in a tube. You don't have a jar of toothpaste. So as long as they are logical answers there, well done. Okay, let's have a look at some plural forms. So some words in English only occur in a plural form. Can you think of any? So pause the slide, have a think of words that only occur in a plural form. Again, I've given you a hint with the image. So hopefully you got at least one, because there was a big clue in the image there, and maybe that got you thinking about other items in a similar way. So let's have a look together at words that only occur in a plural form. Trousers, tweezers, binoculars, shorts, goggles, handcuffs, glasses, pyjamas, scissors, and headphones. So maybe you've got some others, but these are some examples of words that only occur in a plural form. There is actually some logic to this. Do you have any idea what that might be? Well, if you think about it, all of these items have two parts to them. So, for example, glasses, we can see there's one part, two parts. The same with scissors, there's the two blades. Headphones, there's the two ear pieces. So, because they have two elements to them, we view them as a plural form. Remember, if there's any words here, any vocabulary that you're not sure of in the list, good idea to look it up. I'm always saying this, but looking up a word is an active activity and it helps you to retain it. It helps you to remember. So for our final activity in this lesson, I'm going to ask you to use these words to complete some sentences. So 9 sentences here. Number 1, do you have a pair of, I can use, I want to look at the bird in the distance. Number 2, the beautician used a pair of, to shape the model's eyebrows. Number 3, my eyesight is not as good as it used to be. Now I need to wear. Number 4, if you want to listen to loud music, please use your. The children are tired. They need to put their on and go to bed. Number 6, we've got 2 here. It's too hot to wear. I need to change into. Number 7, if you go swimming, it's a good idea to wear. Number 8, the police put the on the prisoner. And number 9, are really sharp and are used to cut paper. So pause the slide and see if you can complete the sentences using the vocabulary from the previous slide. Then we'll check our answers together. Okay, do you have your answers ready? Let's check them. Number 1, do you have a pair of binoculars I can use? I want to look at the bird in the distance. Number 2, the beautician used a pair of tweezers to shape the model's eyebrows. Number 3, my eyesight is not as good as it used to be. Now I need to wear glasses. Number 4, if you want to listen to loud music, please use your headphones. Number 5, the children are tired. They need to put their pajamas on and go to bed. Number 6, it's too hot to wear trousers. I need to change into shorts. Number 7, if you go swimming, it's a good idea to wear goggles. Number 8, the police put the handcuffs on the prisoner. And number 9, scissors are really sharp and are used to cut paper. Super well done if you got all of those correct. So that's the end of lesson 46, but it's only the first lesson that we're looking at this topic. So join me again in lesson 48, where we will return to this topic and push it a bit further. So we'll be developing this idea of countable and uncountable nouns, and we'll have a look at situations when a noun can be countable or uncountable with a different meaning. So that's lesson 48. Lesson 47 will be a vocabulary lesson, and I hope you will join me. So see you next time. Thank you very much for watching.